Alright, this time let's go ahead and find the GCF, or the greatest common factor, of 14 and 35. Okay, and we'll try a different representation compared to last time. Um, so let's go ahead and try to write out what is 14 and what is one of the prime factors of 14. Well, 14 is obviously divisible by 2. So we say 14 is 2 times, well, what is 14 divided by 2? 14 divided by 2 is 7. And in this case, we want to find out what is 7. Well, 7 is a prime number, so we can't really break it down into any smaller prime numbers. So we'll just say that 7 is 7 times 1, and then we are done. On the other side, and over here, what we might want to do is to highlight the prime numbers. So 14 has a 2. Oops, and let's see. It doesn't let me highlight it. Okay, there you go. And also highlight the 7. Okay, because these two numbers are special. 14 is 2 times 7. On the other side, we want to take a look at 35. And let's go ahead and write 35 as its prime factors. Okay. 35 equals to what? What is a prime factor of 35? Well, it is kind of obvious that 5 is a factor of 35 because it ends with a 5 or a 0. But what is 35 divided by 5? 35 divided by 5 is 7. So we know that 35 is 5 times 7. And then we ask, what is 7? 7 is 7 times 1 because 7 is a prime number already and we cannot break it down into smaller prime factors. Just like with the previous one, we highlight the prime numbers. Like that. And so we have just broken the two numbers down into their prime factors. Now, just like before, we take a look at the prime factors of the two numbers. One has 2 and 7, the other one has 5 and 7. And then we ask the question, what are common? What are the common prime factors between these two numbers? In this case, it's not too hard because the only common part between 14 and 37, the only common factor between these two numbers, turns out to be 7. So we can come to the conclusion right away and say that the greatest common, it's not aligning correctly. Let me see why is that doing that. And let's try that again. Okay, the greatest common factor of 14 and 35 is 7. Okay, and then what we want to do next is to find out what is the least common multiple of 14 and 35. The quickest way, or one of the quickest ways to do it, is to multiply the two numbers. In this case, we have 14 and 35. But we also want to divide the product by the GCF, or the greatest common factor, which in this case turns out to be 7. Now, this is a nasty number to multiply. 14 times 35 is kind of big, but what we can do is to perform the division first. What is 35 divided by 7? 35 divided by 7 is 5. So that means our calculation is now a little bit simpler because 14 times 35 divided by 7 is really the same thing as 14 times 5. And 14 times 5 is quite a bit easier. It turns out to be 70. So the least common multiple of 14 and 35 turns out to be 70.